Hello and welcome back to another episode of Only a Bag, an Italy travel podcast. I'm Darcy Melton.
And I'm Nathaniel Mellor.
And today I have a bit of a cold/allergy situation. I will do my best to not sniffle and crumple my tissues.
Well, I'm sure we will all forgive you. I'm speaking
you.
for the group here. You are forgiven ahead of time. It is actually the first kind of day of winter, so we're going to, I mean, it really isn't. It's getting warm again, but we have this weird false winter for 3 days. And
A false fall.
false fall.
We
That
have
makes
to
more
call
sense.
it fall, otherwise I'll be sad.
Yeah, no, it's coming on quick. We're in, I think a lot of places have a lot of the people we talk to, like our friends and stuff, have had a chillier summer than they expected and a winter or fall that has arrived sooner than they wanted. But that is not what we're talking about today, is it?
It is not.
We are talking about, well, it's actually Italy in the headlines, as you can tell from the title. It is an episode, we're trying to make this a semi-recurrent sort of theme, I believe, or not theme, segment.
Yeah, talking about headlines.
Talking about headlines,
Yeah.
Specifically how it affects your trip.
Exactly.
While there are a couple interesting things today on Wednesday and then our next episode on Friday, there are a couple of just, I think, interesting tidbits. Most of these are going to be how it affects your trip, or does it affect your trip, or should it affect your trip? And of course, we have like a little bit of like the general strikes, the train strikes coming up as well, in case you're here or about to come here in a few days.
Exactly.
So we're starting, what are we covering today? EES, I believe?
Yes, so fingerprinting and EES, as well as upcoming strikes and new saints and a new saint day.
Absolutely. And that actually, the new Saint Day we're doing this super early. It's beautiful because it actually won't affect you probably until 2027. Even though it goes in effect, I believe, this year, it won't actually take effect until next year, but it falls on a Sunday next year. So anything that would affect you in terms of places being closed or buses or trains running a holiday/Sunday schedule is already going to happen next year anyway. So this will only affect those of you who are planning way into the future and really want to know what is going on in 2027. But we thought it'd be interesting to throw it in anyway because, it's just kind of interesting to see it happening. I guess for me, it's interesting because France is sort of having a protest to prevent the removal of more public holidays, whereas Italy is putting public holidays back. So I'm excited to get into that. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been leaving us reviews. We genuinely appreciate it. It does help us out, but also makes us feel really good. If you would like to leave us a review to make us feel good, you can do so on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow along and keep updated. In the next upcoming weeks, Darcy will be going back to the States, so we have a whole, I think, 4 or 5 weeks planned around Naples specifically, because we realize we have not talked about Naples in about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And I've realized we've visited so many times since then, and we've learned a lot more information, and we never actually revisited it in the same way we revisited Florence or Rome or any of these other cities. So if you'd like to, be around for that, you can follow along. You can also check us out on our website, onlybag.com, where you can send in any questions, comments, concerns, anything about this episode or Friday's episode that you have any questions about. Or we're going to talk about EES today, which I'll get into in a second. But if you have more information on it that you'd like to share, absolutely send us a message and we'll put it on the show, on the podcast. Last but not least, if you would like to support us financially, you can do so on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/onlyabag, where all of your donations will go towards things like, we just got new microphones, but things to help the podcast. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, that was great.
Perfect.
Okay, so can you explain EES?
Okay, so and for those of you who are like, am I having this weird sense of deja vu? Did you guys not just talk about this? Yes, technically we did just talk about it. However, we recorded those episodes on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we put out the first one. I think Wednesday afternoon, they made this announcement about EES coming into effect. I think it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, October 12th of 2025. I'm reading that from my notes, so I should not be mistaken. So we were like, well, that's fun. We just did an episode on this where it was sort of tenuous. And there are a few things we wanted to clarify and a few things we wanted to discuss and talk about. First thing, EES and ETIAS, or ETIAS, are not the same thing. ETIAS, is essentially a program mostly for a handful of countries, but for those of you, I think, listening, it's pretty much all of you listening, America, UK, Australia. Essentially is a program that is already in place. I know it's already in place for Europeans visiting like the United States, for example, but I don't know if it's for other like Europeans visiting Australia or the UK. I don't know how that works. So essentially, it's just a pre-approved visa waiver, for lack of a better word. It's just like ahead of time, you sign up, You give all your information, your passport information, travel dates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a 20 € fee that's good for 5 years. And essentially it's telling Europe, I don't need a visa. And when that means is simply like there are countries in which you need a tourist visa and you need to apply well ahead of time and get sort of references and things like that. This is an entire program designed to essentially make it quicker, and that is done ahead of time rather than a stamp at the border, which is what's happening now. EES is short for the entry-exit system. It is something that has been sort of running simultaneously or been starting simultaneously, but is not related. ETIAS isn't go ETIAS or ETIAS, and I'm going to call it that, is not going into effect until autumn of 2026. Maybe.
Okay, so about a year from now.
Yeah, maybe. It's been pushed a lot, which is why I think in the last week's episode,
Like pushed back, you mean?
pushed back.
Okay.
Yeah, last week's episodes, I was talking about how like I don't know. I was very like kind of I don't know. It's just like who knows if this is ever going to go into effect because they keep pushing it, and a lot of it is just needing to get so many countries on board and figuring out what the effects are and et cetera, et cetera. EES is something that literally they then rolled out like a couple days after this, a couple days after we recorded. So what it is not something you can do ahead of time. Just want to throw that out there. It's something you have to do at the entry to the Schengen Zone. The reason I'm making that specific is because it's basically listed as an EU thing, when in fact countries like Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland, which are not part of the EU but are part of the Schengen Zone, are involved in this.
Okay.
So essentially when you land in the Schengen Zone, which is, as we've talked about many times, it's that you get Americans, for example, for those of you listening who are Americans, I believe also Australians and Canadians and English people who are from England, British?
People from the UK?
UK, thank you. I'm like, what is that called? UKers? No. United Kingdomers? No. British? I don't know.
They're not all British.
Right? No, they can't be. Okay.
People from the UK.
The island.
Okay.
Plural. Point is, I'm going way off topic there, is that you will need to essentially, you basically have 90 days within 180 days, which just essentially means you can visit the Schengen Zone for a 90-day period within the last 180 days. So it looks back, like from whenever you enter, it looks back into the previous 180 days, it being like the system, and says, have you been here for more than 90 of those last 180 days? If not, you're good to come in. If so, you cannot come in. So this system is essentially designed to mainly prevent overstaying visas. We've talked about this a lot, I think, how there used to be a lot of ways. I mean, you talk to anybody from the 90s, right? And it was like, oh, if you're gonna overstay your visa, just like go out of Italy, go out of Greece, go out of Spain. They are not paying attention. They are having a sleepy holiday in that passport booth.
Or like quote unquote lose your passport and get a new passport. You mentioned a couple things off air, which I had not considered before, didn't realize people did, but would change their name so you could get like a different passport with a different name, or use someone else's passport if perhaps you looked like someone and had a different name. Apparently there are lots of ways that it seems to me like farther in the past, maybe in the 20th century, people were able to get away with certain things and overstay their visas essentially. That doesn't seem like something that's happened that much recently, but nonetheless, they're putting in the system to prevent people from overstaying their visas.
Exactly. And it's the same way of like in the States, you can't drink until you're 21, right? But if you and a friend look alike and your friend's 21 and you aren't, you can use their ID, right? Technically, don't actually, it's illegal.
It is illegal, yes.
Yeah, for sure. No, but I mean, like, that's like the thing of like, oh, find
Right.
somebody's ID that kind of looks like you. Or instead of getting a fake ID, you can buy a lost ID. I'm putting quotations around this because I assume they're lost, not stolen. And then as long as you look like that person, you can use it to buy alcohol, which is hilariously convoluted in order to just, I don't know, go to a bar. But my point is, in theory, as long as you look like the person on the photo of the passport, you're good to go. And I remember we were coming into like Philadelphia or Boston or some American airport, and there was like a TSA agent, and he was really zealous. Like everybody was asking questions like, "What's your last name? When were you born?" He was and just the information on their passport, not like asking their passport number because nobody knows that, but just the rote information in case they did borrow the passport from somebody else. So essentially, this system EES is designed to kind of put a stop to that. If you, for any reason, change your passport, your name change, gender change, change the color of your hair and you need a new passport. For instance, I got my first real passport when I was 18. I had just shaved my head. I don't know why. It wasn't a good look at all. And I got a passport photo with that taken. So like a couple years later, I had a beard and long hair. I looked nothing like this passport photo. And the TSA agent guy was, really polite, but he's like, you're going to need a new photo. Like, you don't look anything like this. And I guess technically, yeah, I could see how it's you, but honestly, this isn't, you're going to need a new photo. So that is something where, again, people would get a new photo, a new passport. And in theory, my understanding, and I guess it's been a long time question, and you'll see it on like solo travel, all these Reddit subreddits for traveling. People ask like, when you get your passport scanned at an airport, like in like 2015 or whatever, right, in the computer, are they just making sure you're like not on a no-fly list, or are they actually logging when you came into the country? And it's always been I think a secret, for lack of a better word. I mean, it makes sense as a secret, because if you know what they're scanning for, you know how to circumvent it. And the reason it's been important, though, is a lot of people are like, I'm in danger of overstaying my visa, and I need to know that I can get out without like getting flagged, or that I can get back in if there's like a specific, like again, as I mentioned, it's 90 days within 180. So some people, especially for work, would go back and forth. And for a while, up until I guess EES, it's been that if you don't have at least like usually within a week or so left on your visa, you can't come in, even if it's just for a day, even if you have a return ticket. They're like, we're sorry, we don't like, you're within a week of overstaying your visa here. So this is all simply to say it's going to streamline this. What this means for you as a traveler is that when you get to the border of the Schengen Zone, which is the first country, it should be how it happens, is the first country you land in coming from outside the Schengen Zone. So if you are coming from the States, for example, and you're flying Lufthansa, for example, their first country is almost always going to be Germany. I think they route almost all their flights through Munich or Frankfurt. If you're coming through Delta, it might be a direct flight straight to Rome or to Paris or to Copenhagen. So wherever the first country you land is, not necessarily the final country, you will have to go through EES. And the reason it's important to you, dear traveler, for a variety of reasons, I think the first thing I want to talk about is timing. I guess the people who put this into place have this really beautiful idea that it's going to take no more than 2 minutes per passenger to take a photo of your face, scan your fingerprints, scan your passport, and then go through. And that feels like a really beautiful wish.
Yeah.
Because there are, I mean this with no like disrespect, but there are people who struggle with like a self-checkout, right? And there are self-checkouts who struggle with being a self-checkout.
Exactly.
Like you scan things and it just does not work. And there are people, I mean, there's like, it's just, you cannot make something that is foolproof. You can't make something that is foolproof. Like it's just, and again, not to insult people, to be very clear, it's just, there are
user error, technology error.
Exactly.
It's never going to be perfect, and it's certainly not going to take 2 minutes.
No, and that's exactly what I'm thinking. And that does not count for the fact that people are getting off a 9 or 10, a longer flight, tired, especially, again, we mentioned coming from the States, where that's, I think, the biggest one, because coming from the States, you are oftentimes, if you're not sleeping, you're basically, you've been up for 30 hours. So you're completely jet lagged. You haven't slept. You're really tired. If you're traveling with somebody, not by yourself, but like kids or something, they also have to go through the process. So it's like you have to get kids who didn't sleep with you. And it's just, it is a nightmare waiting to happen. This happens on October 12th, by the way, just to give a little heads up. And
speaking of kids, you mentioned off mic something about kids and babies.
Great. Yes, I did. Okay.
What do you do with kids and babies?
Just don't bring them. No, I'm kidding.
This EES.
You should totally bring your kids and baby to Europe. It's but so EES, what it asks for you is for 3 things. It asks for a passport scan, fingerprints scanned. I think it's 4 fingerprints. I don't know if it's index and middle, or if it's index and thumb, or some other weird thing.
I imagine it's your 4 fingers on one hand, like not your thumb.
Okay. That could.
When
totally
I've
be
done
too.
fingerprinty things, it's usually that.
Okay, so 4 fingers in one hand. Okay, and yeah, okay, that could totally be it. And then, so it essentially asks for fingerprints and then a facial scan or a photo, essentially. If you are coming with kids, they do not have to have their fingerprints taken if they are under the age of 12, but everybody, including babies, do need a photo taken, which is a lot of fun. I imagine, I don't know, I've never had to like hold a baby up to a weird little camera thing and be like, no, look at the thing. And obviously, because if you don't look at the thing, it'll say, hey, error, we can't scan your face. So you have to like get a kid to, again, I don't know who designed this. It is kind of a nightmare. But
someone who'd never met a baby.
Probably. So if you are traveling with a baby, you will have to get them to look at the scanner, and they will have to have their photo taken. And not their fingerprints, but also their passport needs to be scanned. In the previous episode, we mentioned that in the United States, there are signs when you have to take the same thing, facial recognition, little scan. We mentioned that you can opt out of the facial scanning. in the United States, in the TSA. I think we also mentioned it for Europe because you would like, I mean, there's like 4 articles you found that were all saying you can opt out of facial scanning in Europe. With the EES, it seems to be different. I say that because the system in place in the Dublin airport, for example, is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, last time we traveled through Dublin, it's an extension of the TSA. Essentially, the TSA has their own security office, for lack of a better word, or area in the Dublin airport. So the idea is when you pass through that in Dublin and you land in the States, you don't have to go through it again. You're already through security, you're through TSA, you're through passport checks, you're through everything. So you land in you fly from Dublin to Atlanta and you're in Atlanta. You don't have to go through anything else. You fly into essentially, I guess, more of a domestic gate than an international gate.
In theory, yes.
In theory. Which is all simply to say, I think Rome has had a facial scanner too, and you were supposed to be able to opt out of them. As far as I can tell, you cannot opt out of, well, you definitely cannot opt out of fingerprinting. If you say, I don't want my fingerprints taken, they'll say, that's awesome. I totally respect that. You are invited to leave on the next flight, which is the next flight. You can stay at the airport. You're not allowed to leave the airport. And it's politely kicked out of the country, whatever that.
Yeah, basically, if you would like to enter the Schengen Zone, you have to agree to
be
these
fingerprinted.
Things. Yes.
Yeah. The reason I say that with photo, I cannot find any proof specifically leaning one way or the other. All these FAQs, even these official documents they've been putting out, outlining it, aren't clear. They're for fingerprints, you definitely need them scanned. The only people are people who cannot give fingerprints. I guess if you have no hands and or fingers, and
right.
I guess that would be the only case. Or if you're missing fingerprints, I guess, if you're
right.
I think that would be. So essentially they're saying if there's something preventing you from physically giving fingerprints, that's one thing, and you're still allowed in, you're fine. If you are if it's ideological or privacy related, they don't care, right. I think is a nice way to put it. And so, yeah, with the facial thing, I'm assuming that's also something you're going to have to give. So just wanted to throw that out there. That goes in effect October 12th, but it will be rolled out over the next 6 months. I think they have an end date of April 8th in mind, if I'm not mistaken. It's a hopeful, or April 10th. It's a very hopeful end date, but of 2026.
Can you explain that again? I'm confused. I thought it was going into effect now.
It is going to affect October 12th, but it can't be
it doesn't happen all at one time.
Exactly. They can't get everybody on board at the same time. So it's going to be every airport and seaport. So if you are coming to Italy on a cruise, it's going to be the exact same thing. And I guess spaceport, I don't know what else. It's however else you're getting to Europe, everywhere will have to go through the same checks. And obviously, if you're English, you probably already know this because I have seen so much of this material specifically targeting people from England, I guess, because
it's written for people from England.
Yeah, because it's Saint Pancras Station or something. There's the station that goes to France.
Okay.
And then there's
that
the Dover.
Doesn't sound right.
I know.
Okay.
I don't think I'm saying it right. Pancras. I don't know how to do. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, you guys. And essentially, a lot of it is actually written for that station specifically because it goes to France. And I believe there's the Dover Tunnel or whatever it is connects that. I don't know. Somebody listening to this is he's butchering our country. I'm so sorry. Essentially, it is the French have set up checkpoints in England as well to make it quicker because it's France who wants this, not England. So France is the one that's we'll take the L here and do it. But it's everything: cars, trucks, people on the train. So a lot of this information is for people in England because they're going back and forth all the time, especially people driving trucks with goods, I imagine, and less so for tourists. However, tourists have to do this. The rollout means what's important is that it might not be consistent, and that's the biggest thing I wanted to share is that you flying into Rome, you might only have to do the photo, and let's say you fly to Venice, you might only have to do the fingerprinting. It's just going to be you might have to do neither. You might have to do all three. It's kind of up in the air right now until I think it's April 10th is when it goes into effect permanently. You will still have to have your passport stamped at the border by an agent. So no matter what, there will be an agent there still. This is just to get people in the system. Once you are in the system, you are good for 3 years. So once you have a photo, a fingerprints, and your passport has been scanned, you are good for 3 years.
Oh, so you don't have to do it every time you come in?
No. However, what you do have to do every time you come in is scan your passport and give either one biometric, either fingerprints or a facial scan.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm so this is still not the easiest thing. It's still going to take time, even past April. And again, the reason I'm mentioning this is taking time is because, one, I made it. I try to make it clear that this is going to happen on whichever airport it's supposed to happen whichever airport you initially land in. So if you have an hour and 15-minute connection in Munich, for example, and you have to also go through this in Munich, you might have to talk to somebody and explain, I'm going to miss my flight because you guys did not factor this in. Is there any, not to, like, you don't have to skip it, but it's like, can I just get to a different line? Is there a
Go to the front of the line.
front of the line, something? So this is part of it. And then again, like, let's just say you're flying straight into Rome and you have a train from, let's say, Rome's Termini station up to like Florence or wherever, that you're just like, oh, we're actually going to start our trip in Florence and work our way back down or something. Just keep in mind that this will take an extra, they're assuming 2 minutes per person. Consider the fact that most planes have, what, about 200, 300 people on board. So you have to consider the fact that if just one plane arrives at one time, that's a minimum of 200 to 300 people. If two planes arrive at once, that's 400 people. This is all, I mean, if anyone's doing the math here, I'm like, yeah, I'm at the end of a line. It's a nightmare. However, it's obviously not just one kiosk. There's supposed to be a number of kiosks. So ideally, it's not going to be too difficult.
My only hopeful thought is that it seems to me several airports have already had something somewhat like this in place. So hopefully if they already have had that, there has been that time factored into flights for some amount of time.
Yeah.
So that we're not all missing flights and connections and things like that. So hopefully they have already calculated for that time, but who knows?
And I hope that, as we mentioned in the previous episode, but each airport has a minimum amount of time that they are legally allowed to allot between flights, basically, whether it's international or domestic, and it varies by airport because it varies by distance typically. And I'm really hoping that has been factored in as well.
Yes.
The last two things I wanted to mention on this, and then we were going to go in and talk about strikes and all these other fun things, are the two big, well, the one other thing is questions. According to some of these pamphlets and stuff they put out, you will be asked questions. And again, this is really big for those of you coming from England. It seems to be like there's no consistency because different companies are in charge of these kiosks. It's very confusing. I know, right? Isn't it?
Does not
I
seem
don't know
like
who
a
does.
good
I mean,
plan.
I totally understand the concept. I think I do,
Yes.
but I'm like, this feels like it's poorly being organized. Essentially, though, it's supposed to be that you are asked certain questions. Namely, you'll be asked if you have a return flight or a flight out of the Schengen Zone before 90 days. According to this one document I found, I don't know how accurate it is. It says official and then it says sensitive. So I don't know if it means like it should not have been released to the internet. I don't know.
Didn't it say like do not share or do not duplicate?
It was something like that, yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't think, because it was also like somebody it was like a cloud document. It was like random string of letters and numbers dot cloud something dot something. And I was like, oh, this is like not
Official.
this is not supposed to be out here. And it was fascinating. It was very illuminating because they said it was also the brevity in which certain things are discussed made me kind of think that like, oh no, people are getting asked questions. Was kind of how it was worded. And rather than you might be asking questions, because it was very clear of you need to also show proof. If you lie and say, yes, I have a ticket out, and then because they'll ask you, show us your ticket. And if you're like, oh, actually, I don't, then like, okay. So that was a legally binding yes you just clicked. Don't click yes if you don't mean it. And this is specifically for those yes.
Wait, so a machine is asking these questions?
Yes.
Or oh.
I know. And so I don't know if it's random or if you say, yes, I have a ticket out, it'll say like scan your passport or show us your thing or input your flight number. I have no idea how they're going to prove it. I don't know if it's a random selection too, if like not everybody has to prove it, but some people have to prove it. But I think especially for those of you who are like open-ended traveling nomads, that kind of thing, digital nomads especially, who are like, I'm just kind of going and I'm going to vibe it out. I'm going to feel it out.
Backpacking, and you have a couple options of where you want to eventually end up. And you don't have any firm plans. Yeah.
Because I mentioned that's how I first came to Europe is I just had a one-way ticket and I was like, yeah, I'll leave, before 90 days, but I might hop out before then and hop back in, or who knows. So essentially this is all supposed to kind of keep it and prevent it from, basically if you do that, it's not going to track you in the country, to be clear, by the way. There's on Reddit, a lot of people have this understanding that it tracks you within the country. Like, for instance, you give your passport to the hotel. It doesn't track you at the hotel. When you give a passport to the hotel in like Italy, that's basically the Guardia di Finanza making sure that that somebody's actually staying there. It's not somebody collecting.
It's a tax thing for that hotel.
Yes, yeah. And they're making sure they're not, the hotel isn't collecting money from these fake people staying there. It's not like a money laundering scheme.
Right.
So it should not be related. It's not like every time you scan your passport, they track you around the country. that seems like it's not what they're doing.
Italy is not organized enough for that.
I know. I would be honestly blown away if they were, because that would be so much like, yeah, meticulous detail that unfortunately I don't think they're capable of. Not unfortunately, but fortunately, but also if they were capable of that, maybe they'd have other things working. So that is part of it. So they're not tracking with the country. It's more of when you come in and when you leave the thing. So it's just if you're coming with a one-way ticket, or if you're like, I'm going to vibe it out, you're going to have to, basically be prepared for that. However, if you're coming in on a student visa or something like that, it does work slightly differently. You still have to go through EES. However, you're not going to be like questioned about where's your return ticket, things like that. And potentially for some of you who are already planning on student visa or other types of visas for Italy, you will have to be fingerprinted anyway. I know you're fingerprinted for your long-term residency visa.
Yes.
So you actually don't have to go through EES, neither do I as a citizen. We go through a different thing, which also takes a photograph, so it doesn't really matter. But we also, basically, they're like, we already have your fingerprints on file, so we don't need you to do your fingerprints every time you come in the country. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm done, and we're getting to the other fun stuff, is punishments and penalties.
Okay.
The fun stuff.
Woo.
Because I guess I know that at least when you're asking, wait, what happens if I do overstay my visa though? Essentially, it depends on the severity. It depends if you are self-deporting, I think is the term they use. It depends. Like it's essentially, you overstayed it, and you're like, I have a thing scheduled, I'm leaving. I just have to
okay.
Basically cancel my lease and things like that. It depends how long you've overstayed as well. Again, I wonder how many people because it used to be such a big thing that you can kind of overstay, and I'm wondering if people kind of slip through the cracks and now it's trying to prevent people. I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot of strange terminology around it because it seems like they're not clear on who they're targeting, if that makes sense. They're kind of it seems like a very wide net they're casting. So essentially it's anything from a flat fine, but then no actual punishment beyond that, to a ban of 1 to 3 years. And again, no punishment beyond that. And then I can think finally, no one said exile. There's no permanent exile. There's no I overstayed for 20 years. And they're like, all right, well, you're never coming back in the country, obviously. It just seems like I think it's a fine. It's immediate. They don't use the word deport. They used a different word. It's expulsion, I think is the word they use.
Okay.
And then finally it's, it's a fine. A fine, a couple years out of the country, or deport. It's not, I say this too because I feel like if you are here and you're like, I've overstayed massively, you're fine, probably-ish. Just, I don't know.
There will be some sort of consequences, I imagine, once you're found out.
Not if you leave before October 12th.
There you go. That's interesting, though, because I kind of figured that if you overstayed your visa, it was like a one-and-done situation, that essentially if you're caught, you're not allowed back into Italy. So it's interesting that is not the situation.
No, and that's actually been a big thing because and this gets into something way more in depth, but essentially a lot of this is based around Italy has a lot of issues around or Europe in general, not an issue. Essentially, if you overstay your visa, right, and you have kids and your kids haven't overstayed their visa, it's like you can't just kick you out and not the kids. The kids are here legally. So it just becomes this whole issue of, can somebody else stay with kids? You taking the kids? And so that's the thing, a lot of families here, if one person's overstayed the visa, and I think a big question, a lot of this has to do with if somebody comes over here to work and they're here and they're working and because they make enough money, they can bring over a spouse or children or parents. And those people are all on valid visas, and those people can also work, depending on which visa type they have. But if that initial person overstays their visa, in theory, it should cancel a visa for everybody else. But essentially, Europe is kind of against the sort of punishing everybody for the crime of one person. Mm-hmm. They're sort of like, well, not everybody's committed a crime. So there are a lot of cases basically in different courts essentially saying, like, what is the punishment there? Like, that person obviously has to leave, or do they not leave? Is it just jail? Because then they're here legally in jail. It's this whole thing where I think that's why a lot of this is so ambiguously worded. As we'll get into the next episode, we're going to talk about dogs. It's very ambiguously worded, but it seems like it's intended in order to leave a lot as up to the courts, up to lawyers, up to judges to figure out where the framework actually is, which
based on specific situations.
Exactly. And as we mentioned, Italy is big on that. I know this is Italy specific I'm talking about now. Obviously, France and Germany are all very different countries with very different legal systems. Mm-hmm. I just know that.
So even though this is a Schengen rule,
right,
depending on if you do overstay your visa, you
might have to organize something within your own country or within that country rather than the overarching system, if that makes sense. It might be something you have to go to your local lawyer in Italy rather than an EU lawyer or something like that, where they explain how you okay, here's your next steps. And again, some of these are just, you pay a fine, you leave, and you get a new visa and you come back in, and it's not these don't make it seem like a massive issue. They make it seem more of like don't do that.
So bottom line, don't overstay your visa.
That's the one. That's the
If you
ticket.
can, have a round trip ticket.
Yeah.
I know that's not possible for everybody, depending on your plans, and allow for more time potentially if you can, if you have any say over it, basically whenever you're booking your travel.
Or, and if I may just add on to that, round trip ticket, if you can as well, you can just do it for the 3 months out or whatever it is, the 90 days out, or, make it 85 days if you want to make it like within the margins, and make it a movable ticket. So if you are planning on leaving, the Schengen zone at some point and coming back in, as long as you can show that I have a flight out, that's good. You can move it later in the year. I know a lot of these flights, if you get like their step up from the basic economy to like the regular economy, what do they call it now? They allow you to move a ticket with just a change in fare fee. So if that's something, if you are looking to long-term traveling and you're like, oh, this really puts a damper on my plans, you can still just get a round trip ticket and just keep pushing that ticket back and back and back.
Not in order to overstay your visa.
Right. No. Just
to
like, I mean, especially if you're hopping out of the Schengen
plans.
zone into Eastern Europe, into wherever, North Africa, if you're just bouncing around and, or Southeast Asia, and then you're coming back, or whatever it is.
Right.
And then again, the biggest thing for you, just to keep in mind basically as a tourist, is just this will take probably more time at the airport, and just go ahead and plan on that, especially if you already have a ticket for after April 10th of 2026. That's when it's in effect full. It's fingerprints, facial scanning, and your passport scanned at the border. So just count on it taking a little longer than it should, especially if you're coming like in April of next year. That's going to be probably the most chaotic.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point, is that things will be going into effect slowly up until that point, but because there is essentially like a mandate that everybody has to have this in place by April, it's going to be a scramble at the end.
Absolutely. And so now we're going to very quickly, now that I've talked the entire episode, we're going to talk about a couple fun things. Saints and strikes, the two big S's of Italy.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about upcoming rail strikes. They are happening, what is today as we record? The 30th? So this is happening, what is it, Thursday? It's happening very soon. It's happening October 2nd and 3rd.
2nd and 3rd. Okay, that's Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday?
Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday.
You.
Beautiful.
I literally had the words Thursday and Friday written down, and I didn't read them.
That's okay. That was for a different note. You didn't even need those notes.
It's actually right under this. It's very specifically for this note.
Trying to be the win. But
thank you.
Okay.
So, Thursday the 2nd, starting at 9 p.m. until Friday the 3rd at 8:59 p.m. there will be a rail strike.
Okay.
So that is going to be affecting all of Italy. Trenitalia, Italo, Trenord, I think, is another company. Mm-hmm. So all the trains during that time will be stopping. If you are going to be affected by this, go to the website where you purchased your tickets, and they will give you information. There are some exceptions,
okay,
but they're very rare. So I think the most common exception is going to be for long distance train travel that will start and or end outside of this window. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So they might be continuing some train journeys. They might not just like abandon you, essentially.
So if it's like an overnight train or something, or one that, yeah, interesting. Wait, if it starts or ends? Because if it starts during the strike,
I'm saying if it starts outside that window.
Oh, and then ends or something during the strike.
Exactly.
They don't just strand you wherever you are.
Yes, I believe so. So before you get on that train, or before you plan on taking that train, do just double check the website where you purchase your tickets. Like, that company website, I guess I should say, not a third party website. So it says long distance, quote unquote, guaranteed train travel. All that information will be published on the website for
And
the
do you know if
carrier.
this is a different strike than the strikes they normally hold?
I don't think it is.
Okay, because sometimes they will still run a strike schedule, which is certain trains will still run. A lot of them are going to be like commuter trains or trains like the regionales, things like that.
This seems to be everything.
No, I'm saying when it's everything, they will still run a basic schedule because people still have to get to work and things like that. So they try not to strand people away, or they'll still run buses to make up for it.
That's the thing. So there will be potentially some buses. It depends on, I believe it depends on your region as well, because some regions have more strict rules in place for strikes. But no, I believe that essentially if you're a commuter, or if you're a tourist listening to this, you need to travel before 9 p.m. on Thursday or after 9 p.m. on Friday. In that window, I don't think there's any guaranteed travel. There will probably be some buses to make up for that. So go check the website for the train that you're supposed to be catching.
Cool.
But it does seem pretty strict that they're not going to be running any travel during that time.
All right, good to know. Mm-hmm. And then the saints, I think, was the other S.
Yes, so there are 2 new saints that have just been canonized, I think is the right word, by
Which is, I guess, more Vatican information than Italy, but still interesting, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And Catholic information, but it's still fun. It's interesting.
I realized I opened this up with talking about like Italy headlines that affect you, and I'm like, well, I guess it's more of a Vatican headline, and it probably doesn't affect you, but it's just fascinating.
Yeah. And it affected all the people that went to go see the canonization because Pope Leo, Pope Leone, Leo?
Leo? Yeah.
Yes. He did a big show of it. He went and announced these 2 people and talked about their lives, and lots of people went to go see it. And so one of the saints, his family is still alive. The other one, he died in 1925, I believe. So his immediate family is not still alive. But it's cool that the one of the saints, his family got to go and see him being canonized, which is very sad and also special, I guess.
He's like the millennial saint, isn't he? Or something?
Yeah, Carlo Acutis, which he's Italian, but I don't know how you say that word in Italian.
He's Italian, or is he? I could remember. He's like born in Italy.
I think he's Italian. So he is, yes, known as the first millennial saint. He died at the age of 15 in 2006.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And since his death, I believe 2 miracles have been attributed to him. And then Pier Giorgio Frassati died at the age of 24 in 1925.
Fascinating, though.
Yeah, so fun for them that they get to be saints. Really neat.
I think
I'm stoked for them. I don't know. And then the other thing that, like Nathaniel said at the top of this episode, may be affecting you at some point as a tourist in the future is that San Francesco di Assisi, right? Saint Francis of Assisi, his saint feast day is being put back into the repertoire of national holidays. It was taken out. What did we say?
I think in the 60s or 70s, there's budget cuts basically, and they needed to cut public holidays because obviously in Italy, if it's a public holiday, you still get paid. And this was just something they needed to sort of conserve money. As I mentioned, they're in France right now. They were talking about cutting 2 public holidays and making them work days instead. And that's led to some of the protests, or that has in part led to the protests, I should say. But it's interesting. It's interesting because Italy is putting one back, and it's also like super popular. I did not know this. I don't really know who Saint Francis of Assisi is. We actually went near Assisi and Perugia, which is neither here nor there. But the reason I mentioned is just it seems like a very beloved saint, even by people who are not remotely Catholic or religious here. Just somebody who seemed to like animals and just was nice. I don't know. It was just like everyone's like, oh yeah, Francis. I like Saint Francis. But who also people who tend to have problems with the Catholic Church don't have problems with Saint Francis. So it seems like it's one of those ones that like everybody was on board with bringing it back kind of thing, because it was like I don't know. It's one of those like everyone's like, yeah, this is a great idea. We all love this guy. So that was kind of cool.
And to be clear, so his feast day has existed. It's not like his feast day went away. Like people who
still celebrate it.
Exactly, but it wasn't a public/national holiday for a certain period of time. So it is now again, and that is on October 4th, which is a Saturday this year, Sunday next year, and so then the next year it will be a Monday.
2027, yeah,
and it will be a paid day off.
And again, it shouldn't really affect anything because I think...
Except that, on some public holidays, train schedules and things like that are slightly different.
It is, but I was thinking, so this year, while it's enacted, if I'm not mistaken, unless you read something different, what I read was nothing will change because it won't actually go into effect until next year.
Got it, okay.
And then all those things will be, my understanding is the public holiday and Sunday schedules tend to be the same for a lot of bus companies, train companies.
Got it.
Things like anything like that, like businesses will be, usually if they're going to be closed on a feast day, they'll be closed on Sunday kind of thing. So like Conad or the grocery store will still be open, probably. They're open on every day. But so typically it's just, it was one of the things on 2027 though, will be the first day. It's going to be on the week and also not on a Sunday.
Right.
So
it will then affect train and bus schedules, and potentially some smaller businesses might be closed.
Yep. I think that's everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still going to be bringing you more headlines on Friday.
Yeah, so look out for those. And until then, thank you all so much for listening to this lovely episode, mostly on EES and also Saints and Strikes.
Italy's EES stuff is complicated.
Things. Yeah, it really is, though. So I hope it doesn't ruin anybody's trip, though. I mean, or just make it, I don't know, slow or, I don't know. I'm really hoping nobody misses a train or a flight because of that, essentially.
Yeah. We'll all get through it together.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll talk to you next time. Tanti abbracci.